Example 2. How many real solutions does each equation have? So in order to figure this out, we're going to start by using the quadratic formula. I'm going to make sure that my equation is equal to 0, which it is, and then I'm going to identify my A value, my B value, and my C value. A, in this case, is just a positive 1, B is 8, C is negative 3. I'm going to use my quadratic formula. X equals the opposite of B plus or minus the square root of B in parentheses squared minus 4 times A times C all over 2 times A. So we have x equals negative 8 plus or minus the square root of 8 in parentheses squared minus 4 times 1 times negative 3 all over 2 times 1. If we simplify, x equals negative 8 plus or minus the square root, but I'm going to make it a little bit shorter. I'm going to grab my calculator. Make sure you are using parentheses. So 8 squared minus 4 times 1 times negative 3, which is 76, all over 2. Now, at this point in time, 76 does not come out nicely like our last example, so I can break it down. 76 divided by 2 is 38. 38 divided by 2 is 19. So now I'm going to have x equals negative 8 plus or minus 2 is going to get out of jail. Then 19 is going to stay in jail. So that's 2 times the square root of 19 all over 2. At this point in time, because this does not come out nicely, all I'm going to do is simplify everything by 2. And remember, when it comes to square roots, insides with insides, outsides with outsides. So you cannot divide the 19 by 2, but you can divide his coefficient by 2. So if I divide this by 2, I get negative 4. If I divide this by 2, I get 1. If I divide this by 2, I get 1. So we have negative 4 plus or minus 1 times the square root of 19, which these are your solutions. And the question was, how many real solutions does the equation have? This is 2. One of the solutions is negative 4 plus the square root of 19. The other solution is negative 4 minus the square root of 19. Letter C, 6x squared plus 2x equals negative 1. So starting out, if we want to use the quadratic formula, this has to be equal to 0. So we're going to add 1 to both sides of the equation. 6x squared plus 2x plus 1 equals 0. Then we're going to list our A, our B, our C. A is 6, B is 2, C is 1. Quadratic equation, x equals the opposite of b, so negative 2, plus or minus the square root of 2 in parentheses squared minus 4 times 6 times 1 all over 2 times 6. If we simplify this, x equals negative 2 plus or minus the square root, but I'm going to make it shorter. Then I'm going to use my calculator, and I'm going to take 2 squared minus 4 times 6 times 1, which is negative 20, all over 2 times 6, which is 12. At this point, I'm going to take a look at that square root, and I could try to break it down. But what do you notice about that square root? That's negative. Can we take the square root of a negative number? Not at the moment. We will, but not right now. So how many real solutions does this have? No real solutions. And we can stop right there for today. Letter B, negative x squared plus 4x minus 4 equals 0. Now, I'm looking, it's already equal to 0. so we can go straight to A, straight to B, straight to C. And the nice thing about the quadratic formula is it doesn't matter if your leading coefficient is negative. It doesn't matter if your leading coefficient isn't 1. It doesn't matter. You can use it for anything. So A, -1. B, 4. C, -4. Quadratic formula, x equals the opposite of b, so -4 plus or minus the square root of 4 in parentheses squared minus 4 times -1 times -4 all over 2 times -1. We're going to simplify this. X equals -4 plus or minus, put your square root, but make it shorter. So in your calculator, 4 in parentheses squared minus 4 times -1 times -4, which is 0, all over 2 times -1, -2. Now, I'm going to look at this square root. We have the square root of 0. What is the square root of 0? Well, that's 0. So I could do x equals -4 plus 0 over -2. I could also do x equals -4 minus 0 over -2. Well, if I do -4 plus 0, that's -4 over -2. That's 2. If I do -4 minus 0, that's still -4 over -2, which is 2. So our solution is 2, and how many real solutions is that? That's 1 real solution. So before we go on to our recap here, which says discriminant, let's just go back. In this example, we had 2 real solutions. They didn't look pretty, but we had 2 real solutions. So ask yourself, what was happening here that got me 2 real solutions? And I want you to focus right there. Do you see that square root? That's a positive number. What happened here that got us no real solutions? Well, look back at that square root. Okay, that's a negative number. And then last but not least, 1 real solution. I want you to look back at that square root. You had 0. Okay, so to recap, how do we tell without going through all of that work if we're going to have 2 real, 1 real, or no real? And the answer to that is we use the discriminant. The discriminant is the part under the square root. So the part under the square root is the parentheses b squared minus 4ac. If I use the big word discriminant, I'm telling you to look specifically at b squared minus 4ac. So if the discriminant is a positive number, you will have 2 real solutions because you're taking the square root of a positive number. If the discriminant is 0, you will have 1 real solution, because if you take the square root of 0, plus and minus 0 is the same thing. And if the discriminant is a negative number, you will have no real solutions.